Hidden deep within the frozen wilderness of Siberia lies a lake so unfathomably deep that neither light nor logic can reach its bottom. They say if you stare long enough into its still waters, something might stare back. But what if it already has? Welcome to Lake Baikal, the oldest and deepest freshwater lake on Earth, a geological anomaly, a natural wonder, and perhaps a gate to another world. In today's story, we travel to the summer of 1982, when a Soviet military diving team descended into the lake for a routine training exercise and came back shattered, some never to return. What they encountered in those frozen depths wasn't human. It wasn't in any manual, and it has never been explained. So fasten your seatbelt as we dive into one of the most chilling, unsolved military encounters in modern history. Music sting. Lake Baikal isn't just a stunning feature of the Russian wilderness. It's a place that has absorbed stories for millennia, from ancient shamans to modern-day scientists. But the account that haunts it most didn't come from folklore. It came from a military report. In mid-1982, a Soviet Navy unit was deployed to Baikal to conduct deep-water diving exercises. The lake's immense depth and extreme cold made it an ideal, if unforgiving, training ground. The divers wore specialized suits, carried oxygen tanks, and followed strict formation protocol as they descended into the abyss. At first, everything proceeded like any other dive, cold, dark, methodical. But on what should have been an ordinary morning, the lake revealed its first secret. During a routine formation check, several divers noticed movement in the shadows. At first, they assumed it was their fellow soldiers, but these figures were different. They drifted slowly through the murky water, 3 of them, towering at least 3 meters tall, clad in tight-fitting, reflective silver suits. No oxygen tanks, no visible breathing equipment. And strangest of all, their heads were covered in smooth, dome-like helmets that left their faces exposed and staring. The beams of the Soviet torches bounced off their suits, illuminating enormous, dark eyes that reflected the light right back. The beings showed no aggression, no sound, no movement beyond the slow, impossible grace of their floating bodies. In that moment, something ancient stirred in the minds of the divers, a wordless, primal understanding. This was not human. This was not supposed to be here. And yet it was. Above them, the ice. Around them, the void. Before them, the unknown. They resurfaced in silence, shaken but trained not to show it. But nothing could have prepared them for what came next. Back on the surface, the Soviet divers delivered their report with the discipline expected of trained soldiers. No hysteria, no exaggeration, just facts. 3 unknown humanoid entities, no breathing apparatus, silver suits. Helmeted heads 3 meters tall, watching them without fear. The commanding officer listened in silence. Then, instead of calling for caution or a scientific evaluation, he issued a different kind of order, one that, in hindsight, would be called a fatal mistake. Select 7 of the strongest divers, he said. Arm them with reinforced nets, return to the lake, and capture one of the beings. No questions, no hesitation. This was the Soviet military in the Cold War, and obedience was absolute. Once again, the dive team descended into the abyss, now with a mission not of observation, but of confrontation. The icy water welcomed them like a silent tomb. Their torches cut narrow paths through the darkness. And then, as before, the silver beings appeared. They did not flee. They moved toward the divers, slowly, deliberately, as if curious, as if communicating. For one breathless moment, both sides hovered in the water, facing each other like mirrored species from opposite worlds. Then it happened. A diver launched his net, aiming for the closest entity. What followed was chaos. One of the beings reached to its side and pulled out a small, metallic device. It was unlike any known weapon, no trigger, no visible mechanism. But the moment it activated, the lake itself seemed to revolt. a violent whirlpool erupted around the divers, spinning, tearing, compressing the very water they were in. It wasn't just current, it was force, controlled, directed, and devastating. The divers were hurled upward, ripped from the depths by a vortex they couldn't escape. When they broke the surface, it wasn't triumph they brought with them, it was trauma. Their bodies convulsed, some were unconscious. All were victims of rapid decompression, a deadly condition caused by rising too fast from deep water without proper protocols. And then came the second horror. There was only one decompression chamber. 7 men had returned. Only 4 could be saved. The other 3, soldiers, brothers, fathers, were laid on the rocky shore as their bodies seized in agony. Their teammates knelt beside them, powerless. Helpless, silent, within minutes they were gone. The incident was recorded but not understood, explained but never believed. What they saw beneath the lake was no trick of pressure. It was no hallucination. It was contact with something intelligent and unforgiving. And from that day forward, the military would no longer refer to them as unknowns. They had a name now, one whispered in classified reports and sealed files, the Swimmers of Baikal. If the silver beings were enough to unsettle even hardened soldiers, what lurked deeper beneath Lake Baikal would stir something even older than fear, instinct. Baikal is not just the deepest lake on Earth, plunging over 1,600 meters. It also holds nearly 20% of the planet's unfrozen freshwater. But the true marvel lies in its isolation. Cut off for millions of years by mountains, ice, and time itself, Baikal developed a closed ecosystem, a self-contained biosphere where evolution ran wild, unobserved. Over 4,000 unique species live in its depths, and many of them exist nowhere else on Earth. Here, in the freezing dark, fish grow larger, predators grow faster, and survival follows rules written in a language we no longer speak. Local fishermen whisper of a creature not found in any textbook, a beast that slithers silently through the lake's tunnels, traveling between Baikal and the rivers that feed it. It does not always appear, but when it does, something always disappears, a boat, a man, sometimes both. It's described as enormous, over 10 meters long, a jaw so wide it makes up a third of its body, a shadow that swallows light. Some say it resembles a grotesque version of the pike, only much, much larger. Others believe it may be a prehistoric relic, a surviving mosasaur or ancient marine reptile that escaped extinction by retreating into Baikal's hidden depths. But there's another theory, darker still. What if this creature didn't come from the past at all? What if it evolved alongside the rest of life, but in a direction we never followed, a separate branch of biology, untouched by sunlight or surface? One that never needed language, fire, or cities, only silence and darkness. And every time a net comes up shredded, every time livestock vanish near the lake's edge, or strange ripples break a mirror-still surface, the people of Baikal remember. They remember the warnings passed down through generations. They remember that some shadows under the water are real. To this day, no one has captured it, no clear photo, no body, no proof. But that doesn't stop the locals from locking their doors when the moon is high and the lake is still. Because sometimes it's not what you see in the water that should scare you, it's what you can't. If the bottom of Lake Baikal hides secrets from the dawn of time, then the sky above it seems to whisper something even stranger. Because in recent decades, it's not just what's under the water that haunts witnesses, but what hovers above it. Residents near the lake have long reported strange orbs of light, perfectly round, eerily bright, and utterly silent. These glowing spheres drift across the water, move in sharp right angles, and vanish without a sound. Sometimes they shoot skyward. Other times, they plunge directly into the lake without making a ripple. One of the most famous witnesses was Alec Chulang, a diving instructor with years of experience on the lake. Late one afternoon, while leading a group of students on a small boat, he noticed a strange red flicker low on the horizon. At first, it resembled a flare, but it moved too smoothly, too precisely. The orb glided silently just above the water, pulsing like the slow beat of a heart. Then, without warning, it dove straight into the lake. For a moment, the water around them glowed a deep red, as if the lake itself had been lit from within. And then darkness. Another witness, Sergei Kitch, lived alone in a wooden cabin near the lake. One night, his young son ran in, eyes wide, claiming to see a star flying too low. Sergei stepped outside just in time to see it, a soft orange glow hovering a few meters above the surface, hesitating, as if deciding whether to rise or fall. Then, without warning, it shot upward, only to dive again into the exact same spot. Seconds later, a second orb rose from the lake like a mirror of the first. The two lights danced above the water before disappearing beneath it. Stories like these are no longer isolated. Night fishermen, tourists, locals. Their accounts are eerily consistent, and not just in Russia. In 1994, dozens of witnesses near Lake Michigan reported bright UFOs moving in unnatural curves across the night sky. Weather radar confirmed something was there. In Shag Harbor, Canada, 1967, an unidentified craft was seen crashing into the ocean. The military investigated and never explained. And off the coast of Puerto Rico, multiple U.S. Navy personnel have admitted to encountering unidentified underwater vehicles, objects that moved faster than any known submarine, defying gravity and logic alike. What connects these encounters? Water. Again and again, the same pattern appears, strange craft not coming from the stars, but from the depths. More and more researchers now believe what we've been calling UFOs may not come from outer space at all. They may come from our own oceans and lakes. Maybe they're a parallel species. Maybe they're ancient visitors who chose water as their sanctuary. But if that theory holds, then Baikal isn't just a lake. It's a portal. A place where two realities touch, and sometimes bleed into each other. If the events of 1982 were buried under layers of military secrecy, what happened 5 years earlier was far more subtle and far harder to dismiss. In 1977, the USSR Academy of Sciences launched a large-scale geological survey of Lake Baikal. For this, they used two Canadian-made submersibles, Pisces 2 and Pisces 7, to explore the lake's mysterious depths over a 6-week expedition. They completed 42 dives, some reaching beyond 1,400 meters, a remarkable feat, even by today's standards. But one dive changed everything. On a gray afternoon, the crew aboard Pisces 7 hovered just a few meters above the lake bed. Their floodlights swept across ancient sediment and gently swaying aquatic moss. The silence was thick. Then it began. From behind the vessel, a pale yellow light appeared, faint at first like a candle at the end of a tunnel, then growing until it filled the entire viewing chamber. No turbulence, no motion, no sound, just the light. At first, they assumed Pisces 2 was approaching, but a quick radio check confirmed Pisces 2 was still at the surface, undergoing routine maintenance. It hadn't descended at all. A heavy stillness filled the sub. Every eye turned toward the window, to the direction of the light, and there, beyond the glass, something massive passed overhead. They couldn't see its form, but they could feel its presence. It wasn't a malfunction. It wasn't a trick of light. Something was out there. It glided above them, vast, silent, and glowing with a radiance no human technology of that era could produce at that depth. And then it disappeared, swallowed again by the abyss. No wake, no pressure wave. Nothing except the thundering silence left behind. Back on the surface, they reviewed everything. No other vessels nearby. No equipment failure. No environmental explanation. And most critically, in 1977, no known submarine in the world, Soviet or American, could emit a powerful external light while operating reliably at depths exceeding 1,400 meters. The incident was never widely reported. It survived only in an obscure appendix to a geological file, quietly shelved, quietly forgotten. But for the scientists who lived it, the memory never dimmed. Some spent years trying to rationalize it, suggesting methane reflections or rare deep lake discharges, but when they spoke of what they felt, they all used the same word: presence, not illusion, not malfunction, but something watching with intention. If that's true, then the beings in Lake Baikal might not be visitors from distant galaxies. They may be something else entirely, something native to Earth, a civilization that evolved beneath us. One that never needed sunlight, only silence. And Lake Baikal, it would be more than a lake. It would be their sanctuary, their shield, their world. One question refuses to die. What exactly lives beneath the waters of Lake Baikal? Skeptics say it's all a misunderstanding, a military accident, an optical illusion, the tragic result of decompression sickness twisted by rumor and fear. But when so many stories from different times, different witnesses, and even different countries all echo the same impossible patterns, coincidence begins to collapse under its own weight. And a once ridiculed theory now emerges with chilling clarity. Maybe these aren't visitors from another world at all. Maybe they've always been here, not extraterrestrial, but ultra-terrestrial, not from the stars, but from below. A species or technology that evolved separately, silently, beneath the crushing pressure of the deepest places on Earth. Creatures that don't breathe air, machines that don't need sunlight, beings that watched us rise and kept their distance. Some researchers have even proposed that the so-called Swimmers of Baikal might not be biological at all, but organic machines built to endure the cold, the dark, the depths, their seamless movements, their ability to disappear. The device that created a whirlpool without sound or fire. It all suggests something far beyond what modern humans understand. But these are just theories. And like all great mysteries, from the Bermuda Triangle to the lost city of Atlantis, the truth remains hidden behind layers of denial, curiosity, and fear. Maybe the Soviet Union did return. Maybe they sent more divers. Maybe they even made contact. But if they didn't, those files never saw daylight, because maybe, just maybe, some doors were never meant to be opened. And once you've seen what waits on the other side, you never see this world the same again. Even now, Baikal draws explorers, scientists, and dreamers from around the globe. Its surface shimmers like glass. But beneath that mirror, where the light disappears and the pressure builds, something ancient might still be watching. So if you ever find yourself standing before that lake on a moonless winter night, when the water lies still like obsidian, listen closely, because maybe, just maybe, something is listening back.